The Israeli military has launched more attacks on southern Lebanon. It's killed 7 people and injured another 40 since the strikes began on Saturday. Tel Aviv says its air raids on the city of Tyre and Touline were targeting Hezbollah positions. It's the largest escalation since a ceasefire agreed in November ended most of the cross-border fighting between Israeli troops and Hezbollah. We're going to go to Ali Hashem now, who is in Beirut with the latest. Ali, we know that there's been more strikes overnight. What more details do you have?
Well, there have been several airstrikes or drone strikes during the night, and that also led to more casualties in the Lebanese town of Tyre to the south. 2 people were killed and several injured in a drone strike. And of course, in other areas, there were also airstrikes. And after midnight, artillery were launched towards the town of Aita, the border town of Aita. So if we put the whole picture, the whole incidents into the picture, it's becoming really very tense. However, this is just still part of the equation since the ceasefire. Since the ceasefire, Israel has been attacking Lebanese territories, mainly in the south, also in the Bekaa, and putting the pretext of Hezbollah activities. However, yesterday was the first time, or the second time, when we see launches from Lebanon towards Israel. Now, the Lebanese government has been trying its best to contain the situation. Lebanese foreign minister did several calls yesterday to try to contain the latest situation. However, this is also adding more pressure on Lebanon as a government, given the fact that there are more threats being directed towards the Lebanese territories and towards the Lebanese government in case it's not able to disarm Hezbollah. And at the end, the issue of disarming Hezbollah is a main issue right now, but it's not really that simple for the Lebanese government to go directly towards taking such a decision, despite the fact that the Prime Minister and the Cabinet already took steps in this regards. So the political situation and the security situation both are intertwined right now in Lebanon.
OK, thank you so much, Ali Hashem there in Beirut with the latest. For the very latest, we're going to be joined now by Magnier, who is a military and political analyst. He is in Brussels. Thanks very much for waiting, standing by while we got that breaking news out of Turkey. First of all, there's been this tentative ceasefire between Hezbollah and Israel since November. How do you view that now? Has it fallen apart completely, or is it still intact, do you think?
Hello, Tom, and thank you for having me. I don't think it's falling apart at all. On the contrary, it is important for Lebanon to maintain the ceasefire and for Israel to put it on hold and heat it up only when Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wants, because there is another front that is going on in Gaza where the Israelis are heavily engaged, and Israel has already pulled out the Golani troops from the borders with Lebanon toward Gaza. For Lebanon, it's important to maintain the ceasefire because there are tens of thousands of people are still in the street. There is no perspective for their homes to be reconstructed any soon, and Hezbollah doesn't have the appetite to start another war. It is not in its objective to confront Israel at the moment, but to give the Lebanese government the possibility to contain Israel or diplomatically and make sure that ceasefire holds. But that seems not very easy at the moment.
No, indeed it doesn't. We heard from our correspondent Ali Hashem a little earlier on, basically saying that the Lebanese government is really trying its best to contain the situation and stop it from getting further out of control. I mean, how much pressure is on the Lebanese government to do that, and how difficult do you think it's going to be?
It's extremely difficult because the Lebanese government doesn't have the possibility to impose peace or to declare war, as Prime Minister Nawaf Salam claimed, because it doesn't have the leverage to do so. So for the Lebanese government is under pressure from the Americans that are leaking the intention of America to impose face-to-face direct negotiation with Israel, or at least raise the level from military to diplomatic representative, and then later on head Lebanon toward normalization, which is something that the Lebanese will be very divided upon this point. But again, Lebanon doesn't have the possibility to stop Israel from bombing and returning to bomb Lebanon from now and then, because Benjamin Netanyahu needs to remain in power for at least the next 2 years. This is why he's jumping from one war to another, or maintain different fronts hot. He's doing that with Syria without being provoked by the Syrians. He's doing that with Lebanon. The 5 rockets launched yesterday are very doubtful. Of course, they give a message to the settlers that they're not safe. However, it is really not any value that Hezbollah is taking out of it to launch 5 rockets, blind rockets, and then be bombed heavily with 200 raids by the Israelis and provoking all this number of death and destruction. Therefore, for Israel, it's important to maintain this pressure for political reason and political gain to the prime minister and to his far-right cabinet.
Yeah, how is Hezbollah actually viewed within Lebanon right now, and how has that changed since October 2023? How does the leadership have to take that into consideration with any retaliation or escalation, do you think?
Hezbollah is licking its wounds now. It has been heavily damaged. It has given the order just a week ago for all the militants to disappear from the south of Lebanon, from the south of the Litani River, because there is a big difference between the understanding of Hezbollah and the document Hezbollah has of the 1701 United Nations Security Council resolution and the other points that were agreed upon with the Americans, and the interpretation of the Israelis and the agreement between Israel and the United States about the other point of disarming Hezbollah all over Lebanon. Because of that difference of understanding, Hezbollah maintains its power north of the Litani River and the rest of the country, but that power has been much more reduced. The objectives of Hezbollah are no longer regional, are domestic, and Israel is helping Hezbollah to justify its existence by keeping more Lebanese territory under the occupation. We're not talking about the 17 point of differences between Lebanon and Israel negotiated by the United Nations and what it's called the Blue Line, but we're talking about 5 additional positions and the enlargement of these positions within Lebanon. And Lebanon, as a government, doesn't have the possibility to force the Israeli to withdraw. This is why Hezbollah is saying, my presence and my power is still necessary and is still important for the security of Lebanon, unless the Lebanese government has the power and the military capability to push out Israel, which is not going to be the case.
OK, thank you so much, Elijah. As always, we really do appreciate your insight. Elijah Magnier out of Brussels for us.
Thank you for having me.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.